Hello, guys. We're back with another election prediction. This time we have Senator Bernie Sanders of Vermont versus Ron DeSantis, the current governor of Florida, and he's currently doing pretty. He's doing a pretty good job as governor. He has a very solid approval rating so far, and he's likely to win a re-election, probably by a likely margin, I would say, against Charlie Crist, who looks like the pretty much the presumptive Democratic nominee there at this point. I really don't think the other Democrat in that Democratic primary has any of a chance of winning, but let's get back to the video. So, Bernie Sanders, he has to avoid being portrayed as way too far left of the American norm. He really has to campaign on how his policies are well liked by Americans, and maybe he has to tone down some of them a bit just to be more palatable to some moderate voters. But other than that, I think he could be a lot more formidable than Joe Biden can in a national election at this point with Biden's awful approval ratings. So let's get right into this. First few states I'm going to be doing is Texas and Florida, which I really think Bernie Sanders really has no chance of winning, and I don't really think he should focus on these states to win the election. I think it's kind of a lost cause here in both these states. North Carolina, I also agree that I don't really think he has much of a chance here anyway. In Georgia, I even think he would lose Georgia by a lean margin. I also don't think he should focus on trying to win the state much unless he has a good runner like a VP who's either a African American to boost African American turnout in Georgia, or he could get. I think he needs to balance his ticket with his vice president choice. It needs to be someone who's moderate, just to appeal to voters a bit more. I mean, if he picks Warren, maybe he could win a national election, but I do think there's better choices out there like Stacey Abrams, for example, I think would be a solid choice and maybe even make Georgia a bit more competitive. But I'm assuming it's just a matchup between Bernie and DeSantis, so I'm not going to factor in VP choices. Let's head to the next few states. Ohio and Iowa. It'll be he's barely keeping it from going to solid, safe Republican. Probably 9-point victories for both these states for Ron DeSantis. Virginia and New Mexico also likely victories, while Colorado is a solid, safe state for Bernie. Nevada and Arizona. Arizona, I think DeSantis could probably win it by a lead margin. He's less hated than Trump here. And I think he would do pretty well with Republican moderates in this state. While the state of Nevada, I think, would probably end up and land with Bernie Sanders by a lean Democratic margin. So New England, I think Bernie would win Maine at large by a likely margin, DeSantis would win it by a likely margin in Maine second. New Hampshire, I could see it being a bit more competitive than it was with Trump in that last prediction yesterday. I see Bernie winning New Hampshire by about 4 points here. The last four, Rust Belt state and Nebraska. Nebraska, I think, would probably still land with Bernie, but it would be by a tilt margin, be a lot more closer. I just think DeSantis is probably a bit more extreme than Bernie on some issues, which is why I think Nebraska's second would probably land with the less extreme candidate in Bernie Sanders. I mean, both are pretty much far left or far right at this point. So the last four states, let's get into this. Minnesota, I think Bernie would probably end up winning by a lean margin. Michigan as well by a lean margin. However, the state of Wisconsin, I think DeSantis is going to pull off a victory here, a very narrow victory against Bernie Sanders. While Pennsylvania, it'll be hard to tell who wins, but you see John Fetterman, and he's fairly on the left, and he's beating Mehmet Oz by a pretty significant margin. So I think that kind of proves my case here that someone on the left can win in a Rust Belt state. They gotta make sure they don't support too far left policies, like AOC endorsed policies that are pretty far left for the American moderate. But I think Bernie could probably pull off a narrow victory against Ron DeSantis, and that's how I think the election would try to turn out. Be a narrow DeSantis victory. But these are kind of the Democratic Party's and Republican Party's best candidates they could throw at each other at this point. So let me know what you think of this election prediction in the comments below. Like, comment, and subscribe, and I'll see you guys in the next one.